What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast. I am your host, Marcus. Thank you so much for being here for episode 55. Man, we're gaining some momentum with these episodes over the last couple of weeks. They have been chock full of good information that will help you do your job better. We're working on lowering those CSA scores, and just know, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm with you. Anything I can do to help you guys get the information you need on this podcast is what I will do. And it was awesome to have everybody in talking about these, real things that have happened with H&M. And it's always great to hear from the drivers too. We got the CSA scores working. We talked about owner-operators. We had that predatory towing episode. We are on a gravy train with biscuit wheels right now, my friends. And it's all because you guys are providing such great content for me to talk about. So, what are we getting into today? Well, today's episode has a little bit to do with a couple of different facets of our job here at H&M Trucking. Number one is going to be the shop. There's been some communication issues with the shop, and that's number two. And I won't say communication issues like it's this huge thing. It was just raised. I was asking multiple people for, hey, what are some concerns? What are some things that we could talk about that would help drivers out, that would help staff out? And there was a couple of times that the shop was mentioned, hey, we've also seen some people on the social media networks maybe have some cross things to say about the shop from time to time, and we want to make sure that that process runs smoothly. We don't want the drivers to be cross with the shop, and we don't want the shop to be cross with the drivers. So let's air it out. Let's figure out what we're going to do to make this better. And I'm super excited to say, coming back to join me for yet another segment is Jim Musel from the shop, and it's been a while since we've had Jim on, so that's good because we've got some things to talk about here. Jim's going to walk us through some ways that we can communicate a little bit more efficiently and effectively, which definitely helps the shop. And then after that, I've got Cy Bouchard, Candace Clough, and Barry Helveston coming on for a 3-driver roundtable. It's the first time we've done it. We're going to talk about the shop from the driver's perspective. We're going to see what they have to say about the communication and make sure that everything looks good from the driver's side as well. So a really good episode here. We'll also get some updates mixed in here from Denny as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 54 of the H&M Trucking Podcast.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Joining us next here on the H&M Trucking Podcast is Service and Equipment Manager Jim Musel. Jim, it's good to have you back on. Did you think I'd lost your number? It's been a while.
No, I know you haven't lost my number because you called me the other day and I was like, hey, it's Marcus.
Yeah, well, I've got it in triplicate now. I even put it in my wife's phone just in case.
Oh, really? So you didn't take my advice and just hit the delete and then it says delete again?
Didn't, Jim. I can't bring myself to do so. I just can't. I have too much fun talking to you, man.
Yeah, it's always a good time.
Well, I wanted to get you on here because, we're constantly looking for different things to bring up here on the podcast. And last week's episode and the week before that, we've had some really good response from the drivers about the episodes. And I started asking Sherry over in recruiting, and I also started kind of trolling the H&M Facebook page. Not trolling it in that I'm on there talking smack to them. Just I'm lurking in the background, seeing what the drivers are talking about, seeing if there's something we could do a podcast episode about. And I want to read you a short little excerpt from an email I got from Sherry when I was asking her about some things. She said, I would recommend a shop talk with Jim. Recruiting can also weigh in on this as well. We have some drivers complain about the shop, but then I talk to people that we recruit to the team, and they tell us that our shop does an absolutely amazing job compared to other places they've worked. Sometimes I think it's the communication, which is something that you mentioned to me yesterday when we were on the phone talking about this. And she says she wanted to hear about how we could handle this better. What does the shop need from drivers to make these appointments run smoother? And anything else that really can up our communication here to make things easier on both the driver and the shop. So talk to me a little bit about the trends you're seeing right now in the shop Anything that you would like to see cleaned up or anything like that?
Yeah, a little bit. We see a lot of the DVIRs. There isn't 8 people looking at DVRs every day. It's usually a couple gentlemen. So what we always like to do is they'll put it in DVIR. We just want them to reach out to the shop. If you put a DVR in, still reach out to the shop. Give us a call. I reach out to them through Samsara messages, give them our phone number, give them our options to hit number 6 so we can get you into a shop, get your work, get the work done. But trying to work with dispatch too and their loads,
Mm-hmm.
So we're always doing that. I always ask them, instead of just sending an email with your new email address, if they could put their truck number, trailer number, a little description of communication for us, and their name. That would be helpful. But still, call our office at the shop so we can get it all scheduled. 270 trucks running around, it's pretty hard to chase every email or every little note that they put out there. If they could just call us, because, sometimes our phones get really busy, and we don't mean to put them on hold, but we want to get everything fixed in a timely manner for them, too. So they don't sit and waste their clock, and they can still keep rolling and make the road.
Sure. Well, it's one of those things that sometimes I think is a little bit under-recognized, Jim, and that is that, with all the ways that we have to contact one another, the easy ways are texting and email. It's easy to just throw some text down on a page and shoot it off into space. And then what the problem with that is the person that sends it tends to forget about it, or the person that receives it can't look at it right away. The old school phone call does a lot, man. I thought about sending you a text message yesterday, but I just called you up instead. And, all of a sudden, within 5 minutes, we were scheduled. And it really does, it removes a lot of complication in the communication process when you just err on the side of the good old fashioned phone call.
Right. Yeah. So like when you used to shoot me emails, sometimes it was a couple hours before I even caught up to them. The best for me is reach out, give me a call on the phone, I pick it up.
Yeah, and even if you don't pick it up, you'll call back if it's anybody but me, right?
Yeah, no, I can pick it up, or I'll even call you back. Now, I always like to say the best communication line is just pick up the phone, make the call. Let us talk to you in person. That's the best results we can have,
Yeah, absolutely. We talked last week about our CSA scores. They're not looking too great right now. There's a few things that we talked about around, kind of surrounding safety and things like that. But another thing that Sherry brought up in this email that we were talking about is she asked how the drivers are getting their inspections done, and if they have a problem, how does the shop help them? Can you speak to me on that at all?
Yeah, so we always want them, like, if you stop, I want you to, you get out, stretch your legs, whatever, get fuel, go for a walk, come back to your truck, check it out. If you see something new, give us a call. Let's get it set up so we can find it down the road where we can get you fixed up. Tires, if you got a light. The hardest part is we see a lot of these pictures that the drivers take. They put them in a DVIR, but they never pick up the phone and call us. So when we look at it the next day, that driver doesn't have that trailer. Now somebody else has got to get it. So that's where we struggle a little bit more. We just want more of the communication from the drivers, because there are eyes out there. Mm-hmm. And if we're not out there with them, we want to be with them through a phone call so we can try and get that fixed for them.
Sure. And, the shop's a well-oiled machine. You guys do great work over there. I've seen it firsthand. I didn't get to spend a lot of time over there, but I was over there for a few hours, and just knowing, because I tried to talk to some of the techs, they're busy. They don't have the time to just, hey, there's a podcast guy here, let's spend 10 minutes with him, because they've always got something going on. So communicating effectively with the shop is absolutely paramount, because they want to help you, but they also have a lot of other people to help. And another thing that I think is important to touch on here is that since the CSA score is what it is, and we are on mandatory pull-in status, even a busted light or a light that's out, or maybe some slight wear on the tires, like, you're going to start getting citations for this stuff, and those are going to add up, and it's only going to make the CSA score problem go on longer. So the best way to go about this is just to call you, or call the shop, I guess.
Yeah, just call the shop. If you see something on a truck on the trailer, just pick up the phone, give us a call, and let's get it set up. Let's get it fixed.
Absolutely.
It's easier to get it fixed than get a ticket down the road and then just watch us constantly be pulled in the scales. And then I know drivers get frustrated because it's their time they're wasting sitting there getting an inspection. But the hard part is you think you go in there and get these inspections and get clean ones. It'd be nice to have all clean ones, but we know we're going to not have always a clean one. Mm-hmm. That's where we always rely on the eye of the driver, and they're the eyes, ears, and give us give us some contact and communication, and let's get this thing, back up to where we don't have to worry about this anymore.
Right. And breakdown's always on call 24/7, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yep. So we run, it's usually 7:30 to 5 here. After hours, we have an after hour service that picks up. Honestly, if it's over anything, the after hour service we have calls a phone number that we have for the on-call person, and they'll work through everything on that. If there's needs to be, my phone number is always in there. So if they don't get a hold of the on-call person, they call my phone. If they don't get a hold of my phone right away, they call my phone again. So I make sure that it is repetitive enough where my phone number is the next one in line to call because I want to take care of that matter.
Look at that. I mean, that's a luxury I don't have. Like, I'm not going to get through to you in the middle of the night. In fact, you might throw your phone across the room if I call you in the middle of the night. So you guys are...
I'll still answer it. Marcus.
You don't want to give me that type of slack, Jim, because you never know when I'll try to pull it in.
Well, you never know. You never know. But, we all know what it's like on the road. I do, for sure. Yep. I drove over the road, so I knew what it was like and still understand it. I know what it takes to do the road. And that's where I want to make sure that we get it all taken care of out there on the road too. There's places, that you can go to. They're not they're a fix.
They're a fix.
They're a fix. But it might not be the fix you want, but that's the convenience you have for that repair shop, and you just got to try and get it,
get it done
so you can get down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's really unique and special, Jim, that you have that experience of actually driving OTR. I know a lot of the other fleets that I work with and talk to, they might have a guy. One of the fleets I work with has a guy who's been in the shop for 45 years. That's great. That's awesome. He is dialed in when it comes to the shop, but the one thing that he doesn't have is that firsthand experience over the road. And that's something that only firsthand experience over the road can give you. So you really do have a unique perspective and a unique ability to understand what the drivers are going through out there. So that makes communication here even more important. Like, wouldn't you want to talk to a guy who knows exactly what you're going through? That's Jim.
Yeah. I might not be in California, but you're calling me from California, and I feel like I can try and help you as best I can to get you the right way to get you, your issues resolved.
Exactly.
And that's what everybody wants to do here too in the shop. They want to make sure that everything works so it's in a better flow, and we don't use as much time as we have to get it processed and fixed.
There you go. And virtual high five, Jim, for not being in California. I'm not in California either. It's great.
I know. But I was that years ago. I was on them days.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be out there 2 to 3 days a week. So.
Oh, really? You had to go to California that often, huh?
Yeah, that was my biggest thing. Was I ran Madison, Wisconsin to LA, and then Bakersfield right back to Chicago every week.
Wow. So do you have this like underlying kind of resentment against California like a lot of the other drivers that I talk to do because of all the red tape and all the restrictions and everything?
I wanted to get in and get out as fast as I could.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a smart move to make. I mean, look, I'm 4 hours from the border of California, and sometimes I feel like it's too close, Jim. So I get it. I really do. They send a lot of their transplants up here to the great state of Oregon to the state of Oregon. And sometimes we try to push them back down south, or we tell them to keep heading up north on I-5 and get to Seattle as fast as they can. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, this has been really informative. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy, so I want to keep this as short as possible. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the drivers on this topic before we let you go?
The only thing I can really stress is just the communication line. If they could just reach out to the shop, give us a call. We'll help you the best way we can and get you in a timely manner done.
There you go. That's Jim Musel from the shop. Jim, really appreciate it. We'll get you back on here again as long as I don't lose your number, man.
All right. Thanks, Marcus. Have a good day, bud.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Very excited for our next segment here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, as I have not one, not two, but count them, 3 drivers joining me today. I've got Cy Bouchard on the line. Cy, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you, bud.
Glad to have you here. I've also got Candace Clough on the line. Candace, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Marcus.
And I've got Barry Helveston on the line as well. Barry, good to have you back, man.
Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Today's conversation is going to revolve around the shop and communication, which I think is very important. I'm going to kick this off by starting with you, Candace, because I know that you had a problem here recently that was really hard to solve. And it kind of sounded like the H&M shop were the ones that were finally able to get things back to right for you. Can you tell us a little bit about what problem you were having and why it was so hard to fix?
Yeah, I had a mystery coolant leak back by the APU. When I first discovered it, I contacted Mark in Breakdown, and they sent me to a Thermo King, and they did a pressure test there and came up with nothing, said there was no leak. I said, okay. So I went about my life. It comes and goes, so it wasn't a constant issue. It would seem like I could go a week with no problem, and then suddenly I had coolant all over the place again.
Mm-hmm.
Another month went by when we finally were sent for our PM, so another pressure test was done at a Love's Speedco shop, and again, they could not pinpoint a leak. So at that point, I had really just given up.
Yeah, I imagine so. When all these people that are supposed to be experts tell you that nothing's wrong, you start to feel a little crazy, I imagine.
I just said, it seems like it's something that I can live with, that I'll just keep coolant with me and I can top off when I need to. I shut the valves when I didn't need the APU. So whatever it was, wherever it was coming from, I just dealt with it and had really given up on getting it fixed. So I didn't bother to talk to Omaha Shop about it or, try to pursue it any further. I just sort of said, that's it.
And so how did you finally get it taken care of? Because it obviously was a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you know that there's something going on, you want to get it taken care of because, we all know nothing fixes itself. So there could be a day where it could have gone horribly wrong and gotten way worse. So I was sent to an outside contractor in Omaha for other repairs that the shop had seen needed to be done. Mm-hmm. And when I got the truck back, I was told to bring it on down to Gomez and they were going to tackle this coolant thing. And I said, you know what? They're not going to find it. Forget it. I just want to get on the road because at that point I had been in the hotel for a few days. And they said, no, we have your pictures. So we know where the problem is and bring it on down. We'll fix it. The pictures had been put on the DVIR report at one point when I clearly could see where there was liquid having come from the thing at some point. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, they have my pictures. That solves everything then. I get down to the shop and I give them the truck. And the next thing I know, they're asking me, so we did a pressure test and we're not finding anything. I was ready to just go, okay, good. Let's get on with life here.
Yeah, the hell with it. Let's get on the road.
I had basically thought, that I was being told we're not going to waste our time doing the same thing over and over that isn't producing a result. We can see it in the picture, so we're going to fix it, and that's that. I said, well, if you look at pictures, and he said, and I'm sorry, I don't do very well with names, so I'm not going to recall who I talked to at that moment, but he said, pictures with a question mark. And I was like, yeah, so the pressure tests don't work because this never leaks while I'm idling. It only leaks while I'm running hard on the road.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so he nodded and went about working on the truck again, and they did solve the mystery. I assume he also then sorted out where these pictures were and how to look at what I had shown on the report. So the whole thing, I was pretty much saying at that moment when I got to that shop, I don't hold much faith in this because nobody ever finds this mystery leak. And they did. They did find it. They decided they knew where it was coming from, I believe, from what they viewed in the pictures, and they solved it. After about a week of running again, I see no evidence of the leak. I didn't want to speak too soon, but it appears it's repaired now.
Awesome.
My point when I kind of had a little rant was that I felt something happened there where I was told they had my pictures, but then I was told the pictures didn't get to the people who were repairing the truck.
Gotcha. So a little bit of miscommunication there, it sounds like.
Something happened, and I got told afterwards that I should have emailed them to the shop, which I'm a little confused. I have been confused from the time I was hired as to how the communication goes between us. And I know that we arrange with the women in the office called Omaha Shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then they arrange for you to go either to outside shops or to ours. The confusion for me is that the word shop, it's kind of laid on a bunch of different places within our organization, and I'm still not clear exactly if I had emailed pictures to shop at HM, who was I emailing pictures to?
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I totally get that. And it makes sense too, Candace, because like I said, I talked to Jim, and one of the things that Jim Musel told me was that it gets really tough with 270 trucks on the road to track down all the emails. And it is interesting that whoever you talked to told you to email the pictures, because when I was talking to Jim right before you guys came on, Jim said, look, the emails are great. We appreciate that. But if you are having trouble and you need something urgently or you need something now, the best thing to do is just to call, because they get so many emails every single day that they can kind of lose track of all of them. And I wanted to ask Cy about this. And the reason I'm going to Cy here next is because, Cy, out of the three of you, you actually have the most experience with H&M Trucking. What advice would you have for Candace about the confusion that she's feeling in this reporting kind of back and forth?
Well, throughout time, I've learned right off the bat, like when I first started, I used to do the DVIRs, and it was the same result that Candace had. But now I've learned the process of, if you have a problem and you have pictures, send them to dispatch, send them to shop, send them to safety. There's 3 different areas that them pictures are going to be at. Mm-hmm. I always go with my dispatch first. Say, this is the problem I'm having. I'll send the pictures to my dispatchers, Lizzie. I'll send them to her. She's like, okay, I'll send them over to the shop. And then they'll transfer it to the shop, and then the shop will, I got the pictures. It's better to cover 3 areas than 1. You leave it to 1, because what I found, if you send them in your DVIR, it goes right to safety majority of the time. Mm-hmm. And safety's sometimes busy, and they'll overlook it. Be like, what are these pictures for? We don't know. And then they'll move on to the next thing. You know, it's not like they're not paying attention to it. It's just they get busy. It's better to go through dispatch, and you got more channels to go through. That's all.
Sure. Sure, and when Jim actually mentioned the DVIRs, he said that one thing that they don't have is a guy that's just constantly checking DVIRs at the shop. He said there's just too many for us to have somebody on staff to check them. And he did mention that what helps them out in this situation is on your DVIR, make sure to include your truck number, your trailer number, and your name. Because that all is kind of like involved in what Sai's talking about. It's just giving as much information as you possibly can to help them kind of keep these things in line, it sounds like.
Correct.
Barry, what do you have to say on this? You've just been listening patiently. Do you have any issues to raise with communication with the shop or anything like that after listening to Candace and Sai?
Well, I'm with Candace. I've only been here since January, so I'm still a little confused as to who to contact about what. I have learned through firsthand experience to not just take things into your own hand. I had a flat, decided I was just going to go to a Love's, and I kind of got slapped on the wrist for not calling ahead. So I do know that communication is key, but I have had a couple of small issues. And I've found pretty quick that communication's key. Get in touch with dispatch and the shop, and they'll guide you as to what to do, as to where to go, whether it be on the road or come down to Omaha and get things fixed.
Mm-hmm.
The issue I'm having with my truck, and it's intermittent, apparently the ongoing thing with Freightliner is when it rains, you lose your ABS for like a day until things dry out. And I haven't had it into the shop yet because I keep hearing that's just a thing with the Freightliners.
Really? That seems like quite the design flaw.
It really is.
It is, yeah. And, you get tired of flat-footing it after a while.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay.
Well, and my point with that one is, of course, with our issues with our scores right now, that is a problem if you were to be inspected and get a level 1. If they see those lights on, you're going to get dinged for it.
I got pulled. They had me bobtail from Omaha out to Denver a few weeks back to go pick up a trailer, and I was in that situation, and I got pulled in for a level 1. But thankfully, the guy doing the level 1 didn't really do much of a level 1 because he never even looked in the cab.
Oh,
you're lucked out.
Yeah, he never saw the lights and everything else. But yeah, that's an issue that apparently it's not just to me, but communicating is everything.
Yeah,
taking the pictures and the emails and everything else, and spreading it out amongst the different departments, like Sai said.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I kind of want to open it up here a little bit because you do have a driver with a lot of experience in Sai sitting here. He's worked for H&M over a couple different stints for a while now, and he's got some really good information, I'm sure. Candace, I'll start with you. Do you have any direct questions that you would ask Sai that you haven't already asked that might help you along this path of trying to communicate better with the shop and with the company as a whole?
I don't think that I have questions. I mean, I have really kind of had to think this over as far as what my experience has been so far and why and what I'm facing. I tend to think my biggest confusion is just that we have these names. Like I said, 3 or different people are called shop managers, and then there's shops. And someone said this is called the Omaha shop, and someone said this is the Gomez shop, but they're both on Gomez and they're both in Omaha. So you see what I'm saying? This is from the outside coming in going, okay, I'm sure this all makes sense to people who've been here since this all evolved, but it doesn't necessarily, hit the common sense meter for me. I'm guessing that this all has come about through sort of an evolution of growth, and maybe they were all in the same buildings at some point, and, as they grew and got bigger, they haven't let go of the fact that we've got several different areas being referred to as the shop.
Gotcha.
Because I got, see where I'm saying is that I got told the shop had my pictures, and then the shop did not because it was,
pictures.
yeah. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
This is not so much a question as much as I'm saying, what Sai is suggesting is the way he has gotten, has kind of beaten the system by hitting every mark. I'm saying that that's not really functional communication.
Sai, can
And that's
you shed
been
some
like
light
that
on
for 4 years.
Okay.
Right.
Like that for 4 years.
It's been that way, but I'm saying that, there's a reason why it's failing. And as they get more and more drivers and more people in and new faces, that maybe they need to take a good look at why that has to be that way for 4 years.
Right. No, I'm with you on that.
Okay.
Sai, how have you navigated that? I mean, obviously you said you try to over communicate, which I think is a great idea, but as far as like the names that people use in this shop and that shop, have you made heads or tails of that?
Well, there's only one shop. It's in Omaha. So.
And it's on Edward Babe Gomez Drive, right?
Right. I mean, it's not like you got multiples. But
for me, the word shop means mechanics, repairing. Yes. Okay.
Right.
But then that's not just what they use. They use the word shop to refer to the people underneath the shower house, in the office.
Yes, Janey, Leslie, yes.
Right.
That's the shop. That's who you talk to. Is them
right.
Girls, Janey and Leslie. And then you got Breakdown, which is right next to them.
Got
right.
it. So Breakdown.
It's the same building. Same building.
But Breakdown kind of defines the actual place where the wrench turning is going on, and the shop is kind of defined by the people that are running the operation.
Well, basically, the breakdown is if you break down and you need to get fixed and on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie, Janey, that's the shop. So if you're going to be going to the shop to have repairs done, that's who you would talk to. They handle the trailer shop, mechanic shop, tire shop. All that's one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes, I figured that out, but at the same time, yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
It's a little muddy.
I went through it.
I understand how that all works, and I do believe I understand why. And for them, it's a functional setup, but I feel like I missed a day of orientation or something.
You aren't the only one.
So, actually, Barry, I was going to go to you here. How's your experience been in this right?
It's been a very steep learning curve. They throw a lot at you during orientation, and inevitably some of it gets lost. And but I mean, the information is there. It's given to us. You just got to break open the folder or whatever was given. But yeah, navigating who to talk to and when and what needs to be done is a little daunting at times until you figure it out.
Okay. Well, I'm almost hearing that maybe we should do an episode in the future on who to contact and when. I mean, it sounds like it would really help some of the newer drivers out because, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of vet drivers that have been around H&M for a while, and ones that have been around for more years than you'd ever expect and have more miles under their belt. And this stuff is just second nature to them now because they've been doing it for so long. And I mean, you guys will get there sooner or later, but we hope to help you navigate it before you get there. I don't want to come back in 10 years and have this same conversation with you both again. We want to make sure that we can solve this problem in the best way that we can. And I will put that on our episode roster because I think that's a really good thing. Who to call when? I'm sure there's been times when you've had a problem and you've called somebody and they've said, I'm sorry, but you're just on the phone with the wrong person. I can't help you right now.
No one ever says that. And generally asking that of more senior drivers, they'll instantly say, oh, just hit number 6 and that'll take you where you need to go. Instead of trying to figure out who you're actually trying to contact. But I just feel like I'm wasting someone's time giving them the rundown of what I'm facing, and then they have to go, oh, hang on, and have to connect me to someone else. Now I've had to say it twice, and I bothered somebody whose job it wasn't to listen to that.
Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I get you. Okay.
And I still think it's weird driving a Freightliner that if after hours I have to call Volvo for repairs.
Yeah, you got to find somebody that'll answer the phone, though, right? Cy, after listening to Candace and Barry kind of talk through their experience here, is there any advice that you could maybe offer after the time that you've been here, not only to Candace and Barry, but more to the company as a whole, as how we could maybe smooth this process out a little bit?
Well, it sounds like you need to put a whole nother 20-minute segment in orientation on what is being done, because it sounds like that's not being transferred to the drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you know what I'm saying, like if they're not getting that in orientation, what are you supposed to do?
Right.
You know?
I question whether it happened when we got split up between the fleets.
Oh,
You know, when they take, you know, van drivers aside to do hazardous materials training, and then we got back together, and I felt like something happened while we were gone. So, and it may have not happened in anybody else's orientation. It just was a fluke, timing wise. But I felt like I walked in and had, you know, slept through class or something.
Gotcha. Well, and I think it's important too to understand that, and we do want to say this because we don't want to feel like we're attacking anybody. Miscommunications oftentimes are just a mistake. They're not something that people intentionally do. Just like you don't intentionally not listen to someone when they are saying something. So, you know, don't want anybody to feel called out here, but it does sound like maybe something either got skipped over or maybe it was missed just by accident. So this is good. I mean,
there's a whole lot of information being given in that 3 days, and I totally believe that it was a one-off situation where somehow I didn't catch something. I've just been feeling like I need to catch back up.
Yeah.
You weren't sleeping in class, I hope.
I swear I was not.
No, that was me. If you saw somebody sleeping in class, it was the class clown over here. I can promise you guys that. Well, this has been great. I don't want to get out of here before I give you all a chance one more time to bring up anything else that there is. So, Barry, let's go to you. Anything else floating around your mind as far as communication and the shop and these types of protocols are concerned?
Nothing except, I mean, I've been around. I've been driving for 27 years. I've driven for 4 or 5 other companies, and I don't want this to make H&M look bad because it's been a good experience. They seem like a company that really takes care of the equipment, and that they're not afraid to take care of the equipment. They don't want to slap Band-Aids on it and have you get down the road. So yeah, I mean, as long as you keep the communication going and we can sort out who we got to communicate with, it's a great company.
Yeah. No,
and the maintenance seems top notch.
That's what I was just going to say. I feel like based on some of the other fleets that I've worked with and the things that I hear other drivers talk about, I feel like H&M's running a real tight ship down there on Gomez, regardless of if we know exactly who we're supposed to talk to in that building. But they do a heck of a job. I get a lot of compliments from drivers about the shop keeping them rolling because that's what you guys all have to do. You got to stay rolling. Cy, how about you? Anything else before we wrap this segment up that you would like to either offer as advice or questions that you may have, issues that you may have, anything like that?
No, I have no issues. I mean, it's just a learning curve, I guess. It just needs to be, the communication needs to be put out there better for, you know, newer drivers that are coming in, you know. It just sounds like it's not being transferred over.
Sure.
Like I went through the same thing. But, and again, in time you learn, kind of figure the system out, you know. But I mean, you don't want to take the time it took me to figure it out because I'm still figuring it out. I still run into the same issues. Like, I called yesterday. Yeah, who do you talk to? I don't have you down here. Like, okay.
Yeah, communication's at a premium.
Yes,
there's no question.
Yeah, no, for sure. And everybody's at the shop is very good at what they do, you know.
Oh, I completely agree. I was absolutely thrilled with the way things were handled on that aspect.
Right.
Candace, anything else that you are concerned about or would like to address before we jump off the call here?
No, not at all. I'm understanding a little bit more about what I faced and why. And I think that, the idea of maybe taking the podcast to these people and having them kind of show us their viewpoint on how things should go would be great.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm saying this on the recording like a complete idiot because who knows if I'll be able to make it work. But what I want to do is actually send this segment that we're recording right now over to Sherry in recruiting and have her listen to it, because she obviously has her hands in the recruiting and orientation and everything like that. And I want to get somebody maybe from the orientation team to come on after this segment and help address some of these communication issues that we've had. So I'm going to go to work on that right now. I will say to all of you, Cy, Barry, and Candace, thank you so much. I know that these aren't always easy conversations to have. They can be frustrating. Candace, you were cruising around out there for a month with a leak that you couldn't get fixed. And I will say it's great to know that the H&M shop are the ones that finally figured it out. Those are the all-stars in this situation. But at the same time, communication's got to be cleaned up if we want to do this efficiently. And I just really appreciate you, Barry, Cy, and Candace, all coming on here today to help me hash this out a little bit.
Oh, you're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcus, for your time.
Hey, you guys have been great. We'll get you all back on the show at a later date, and hopefully we can clean this up. If we can't, if you're still having issues, I'm actually going to tell you this because you all have my phone number. If this is still an issue in a couple of weeks, it's something that it's not getting any better for you, shoot me a text because we'll touch on it again on the podcast and get a hold of the right people to answer the right questions, okay?
Sound good? Okay.
Alrighty.
All right, you all stay safe out there, and thanks again.
Thanks, Marcus. Thank you.
Well, I like to show you things to cook on the truck, but there are a few good restaurants still out there. And since this is Bill's Big Rig Cafe, I'm going to start with one of Bill Martin's favorites, and that would be the Gas Grill. You'll find it in Knightstown, Indiana, I-70, just east of Indianapolis, exit 115. I have never, ever had a bad meal at the Gas Grill. Check it out sometime.
Joining me next here on the H&M Trucking podcast is Office Service Specialist Janey Helms. And Janey, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you coming on the podcast for the first time.
Thank you.
Now, you just listened to the same interview that everybody that's listening to this podcast listened to with Cy, Candace, and Barry. And I brought you on here today for the specific reason of let's talk about some of the things that the drivers are concerned about where it pertains to the shop. And I just want to get your thoughts. What, after listening to that interview, do you have any points of clarity that you can make for the drivers to kind of clear up some confusion or any thoughts that might help with that?
Yes, I do. I notice the confusion when everybody starts. Everybody's just learning the role of where to go. By the time they get down to the shop, everything gets confused because they've learned so much at the other office, the 36th Street office, through all orientation. And we understand that completely when you get down to us. It's hard to remember everything too. I know that, we see that, but we're glad to help and glad to point people in the right direction. One of the things that we like to do is we do have an Omaha shop, which is also sometimes people call it the Gomez shop. It is on Gomez. It is in Omaha. They basically both are the same thing, but at our shop, we have a tractor shop, we have a trailer shop, and we have a tire shop. So, of course, all three are in Gomez. So our tractor shop is just down the street a little bit. We are basically trying to tour now with the new drivers that, hey, it's just down the street. It's basically a block down the street. You can see it. Mm-hmm. So that they know where it's at, when to go into, or what door to go into, too, when they go down there. And then, like, the trailer shop, too, is here in the lot where I'm at. So that's easy. And we have a tire shop now that's at the back of our building here where we're at. So it's good. Yes, we're growing, and it's been fun learning all that and growing, watching it grow from When I started, we just had here at Gomez the one location and not the tractor shop down the street. So that's been great. But one of the things when people come to Omaha, we like to, know for the seasoned drivers or the older drivers that have been here longer, we ask that everybody calls in prior to coming in. We like to know what's going on the day before, because like when we have a big class for orientation, we know, okay, so that's going to take up a lot of the shop's time, both the trailer shop and the tractor shop. It's going to take up their time training the drivers, walking through them, letting them understand the trucks, going through the demos for the trailers and everything. So, but that's why we kind of ask the seasoned drivers to call, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of sounds like something that I took from Jim when I was talking to Jim earlier in the episode, was the most information that can be provided from the drivers to the shop is always the way to go. If you send an email, follow it up with a call, send pictures, get your truck number, get your trailer number, get all of that information in there so it's all compiled, so that makes it a little bit easier on you at the shop, because you guys have 270 trucks to worry about. So
yeah,
the most detailed information that the driver can provide is always what you're looking for. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we love any information. If, it did this 2 weeks ago, but it didn't do this now. Sometimes that's a sporadic common thing that we've heard of. We appreciate that information. Sometimes it's new information we hadn't heard. I mean, since we have a lot of trucks that are the same years, kind of things run in spurts. Mm-hmm. We go through it. Not every truck has the same issue either. So we're learning with the drivers too. We like to have that information too. We note it, believe it or not. We're trying to keep better records of noting it in our system, what we're doing in the shop office with Leslie and Tina. Also, we're trying to keep track of all that and get the right information to the techs that can help fix it, so that they know, oh, hey, this is a continual problem. That's why we ask the drivers to call in prior with what they have, what's going on, because actually what goes down is we do the research before they get here. We call it a write-up, where we look back to see like when the last services were done on the truck. Like we do certain PMs on the truck, such as an overhead. Also, we'll do a 3-axle alignment on new trucks at certain ranges. So we have certain little things that we do, just that we've always done, to the maintenance on the backside of the trucks. So when we can prior know what they have going on, it's like, oh, okay, so we can maybe set this up while we do this. We have to contact dispatch. Hey, do we have enough time for this, or do we need to route them back here at another date? Kind of just depends on what dispatch has going, what the shop has going, and then also what if the driver has anything planned on their life for like home time, or they've got something else going on where they need to be somewhere else. So we do a lot of chatter back and forth within ourselves to figure out which route can we go. Even if the shops are busy, we're like, oh, we got way too many drivers that are scheduled coming in, so we're going to have to figure out how to work all this in, make sure everybody gets the proper repair that they want done too.
Sure. And so that continues to illustrate our point that we've kind of been hammering this entire episode, is that communication is absolutely paramount, because of the amount of people that are running through the shop, the amount of drivers that are out on the road that may have problems. And not only is communicating, paramount, but it's communicating with the right people. So make sure to call the shop. The other thing I wanted to ask you about real quick, Candace had talked about sending some pictures along that had been requested, and that eventually the person that needed the pictures didn't even know that they existed. So if a driver has something that they have pictures of and they are trying to get in touch with the shop, let's say they've called you and now they're going to email the pictures, where should those pictures go so that they end up in the right hands, Janey?
Well, we have a shop email. It's a really simple one. It's shop@hmtrucking.com. It's a shared email by all of us in the shop. It's shared with Breakdown. It's shared with the shop office. So we all can see it. That's why if you put the name and the truck number and the trailer number, that's very helpful because you know what? If we know that that driver's going to be coming in the next few days, we're like, oh, here's those pictures, or they, because we do ask them to take pictures. I hear Breakdown asking people to take pictures because that does help us find the leak. And I know in Candace's situation, the pictures were coming along. They were in our emails and being forwarded. You get a phone call, you get sidetracked, you can't quite get to the other person to say, hey, the pictures are in your email. Did you see him yet? We had him there, and the shop did see him. So it was just a slow delay. Unfortunately, sometimes the shop gets ahead of us before I can get the phone call down to him. Hey, I got the pictures finally.
Right.
So, and then once I see him, I was like, oh, yes. So we will get, it helps seeing him. It's like, yeah. So, and that's what's great because I like to even say that, like if there's, if they have a bumper end fall off or something for the truck or things like that, I always ask, hey, can you send a picture? Some parts, like body parts, you can order prior to, but it's also getting it there and having a picture because when we have that picture, when you send it off, we can also report it. We can make sure safety's seen it or the proper channels. If they've reported to safety, that's great. If they can put that in the note that this was reported to safety, we have this body part that fell off, like a bumper end or something simple. Mm-hmm. We can prior order that. We try to prior order that to them coming. Doesn't always necessarily get here before the driver would get here. Just things like that. It is communication on both ends. And we do our best with 270 trucks. It's a lot to keep track of. Some days it gets busy and lost. Our emails are full. And when a driver does call in, like in the shop office, when they call and ask, we chatter around and say, hey, did you get this part ordered or is this part here? We look for these things. We look to make sure if it's ordered or not, to see if it's on back order. So that's what we're trying to succeed at and make sure everything gets done when they're here. It doesn't happen, but sure. Just pictures are great. It's just to our shop email. We love that versus finding it on a DVR. Then, like Jim had said prior, it's not monitored 24/7.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that is what's tough. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. The company's growing. There's always going to be more people rather than less, and so. I think that the real point here is that, you know what, everybody communicate as best as you possibly can. Try to have some patience with the people that you're communicating with. If there is a miscommunication, you can almost guarantee that it's not intentional. And the shop's not just ignoring things that come through. They're just bogged down from time to time. And sometimes something might slip between the cracks. But if we're communicating as we should, those things should get caught before they are a problem.
Correct.
Perfect. Well, Janey, this has been great. Before I let you go, I know you're busy, and I really appreciate you taking this kind of last minute with me here. We threw this whole thing together today because we wanted to get a good response to the drivers, and you came through in the clutch for me, so I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you wrote down that you'd like to relay to the drivers before I let you go? Yes.
Another point was given to, we have the shop office, and then we also have the breakdown department. Mm-hmm. I know the shop office is Leslie, Tina, and I in there. And if they ever need to reach the shop office directly, they can reach them at the extension 3447.
Okay.
And always leave a voicemail if they call. We have voicemail set up. So if we're on the other line, it will go to a voicemail. Leave a voicemail with your name, truck number, trailer number, and maybe a quick instance of when you're coming in. And then we can give you a call back. We always call back as soon as we get the message. And then we have the breakdown department. And then that's when you would dial the 402-431-9410 and option 6. And that's for the breakdown repairs, like when you're on the road and you need immediate assistance. You need to get to a shop.
And that's gonna put you in touch with Scott over there, or maybe Mark, as I'm seeing here, at breakdown specialist, though, correct?
Yes, Scott, Mark, and Jennifer.
Got it. Okay.
So, yes, one of them. And then if Scott will send out the PM messages saying your unit's due for a service, to contact the shop office. I believe it says push option 6. Mm-hmm. that would be the same situation. We try to get some of them done when they are coming through Omaha. Just kind of, again, it depends on the workload, what we have scheduled, orientation schedule and everything. Sometimes we do ask that to be done on the road, is what we call it, through breakdown. But we do our best to do it here too, if we can. Just getting everybody in.
Sure. Yeah,
So-
it's tough. I mean, it's a big fleet. You guys have got a lot going on. There's no question about it, Janey. And I think that, you know, if we can make this podcast work for these types of things, maybe we make it a little bit easier on everybody. We just got to clean up a little bit of communication. It's not a tough thing. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think the one thing that the shop holds is that they do really good work. There's not one driver that I've talked to for H&M that has anything bad to say about the work that comes out of the shop. And I think that that is a testament to your guys' ability to run a smooth ship down there. But you need the help of the drivers communicating effectively, just like they need to be communicated effectively with. So hopefully after this episode, we'll see that kind of smooth out a little bit for everybody that might be confused out there. And I think it's also important to say the shop, they're not intimidating. You know, Jim Musel told me to lose his number, but he still answers when I call. So that should give everybody a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of who's really down there. And Janey, it's been a pleasure talking to you the first time here on the H&M Trucking Podcast. I really appreciate your time and your insight here. And we'll be in touch if we ever need to get you back on again and hear from our office service specialist. I've got your number now, so I'm not going to lose it either, even if you want me to.
Thank you.
All right. That's
Thank
Janey
you for your
Helms.
time.
No problem, Janey. You have a great day.
You too.
All right, that wraps up episode 55 of the H&M Trucking Podcast, and all I can say is wow and thank you. I want to thank Jim Musel. I want to thank Janey Helms. I want to thank Cy Bouchard, Candace Clough, and Barry Helveston, all for coming on the show. I know sometimes these conversations aren't the easiest ones to have, but we had some confusion, and we were able to address it from both sides of the fence today, and that's exactly what this podcast is here for. Janey coming through in the 11th hour to hit us up with a little bit of clarification there on some of the things that the drivers were concerned about. I think that's awesome. If we can do that with every single episode, we have done it, my friends. We have found the gold mine, I guess, is how I would put that. I don't know. I'm just actually looking for my button right now for my party horns because I have some new drivers that we need to mention. Those new drivers are, I don't have a drum roll, so we're going to have to go with party horns. Jason Morgan, he's a hopper driver from Selmer, Tennessee. Welcome to the show. Chris Mortimer, hopper driver from Justin, Texas. Welcome to the party, Chris. Joshua Hughes, he is a van OTR driver from Mena, Arkansas. Welcome to the show. Brian Burrell, he's a van OTR driver from Bellevue, Florida. Welcome to H&M, Brian. Santos Pierce, van OTR driver from Jennings, Florida. Florida representing out here today. Welcome, Santos. Charles McFarland, he's a Southeast Regional driver coming to us by way of Clarkston, Georgia. Charles, welcome to H&M Trucking. Rachel Miller, van OTR driver from, oh wow, this is a name, Ogallala, Nebraska. Hope I pronounced that right. Probably didn't. Welcome to the show, Rachel. And I've also got Jay Boyd, van OTR driver from Lubbock, Texas, down there in Denny's neck of the woods. Welcome, Jay. We are happy to have you all on the best team in the land. Big round of applause to you all for making it through orientation. You know, we just talked about it a little bit with Janey and with the drivers as well. It's a little bit like drinking from a fire hose for 3 days, but it's a good orientation process. Brittany's got her ducks in a row down there, and everything else comes with time, as our experienced drivers have let us know in the past. That's going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you all so much for your participation. Thank you for clicking download. And don't forget, if you have something that you want to hear, find me. I'm in these social media chats, right? I'm in H&M Trucking Friends. You can find me there. Sometimes I'm commenting on posts and looking for things to talk about. Also, if you see the advertisement for the podcast episode, you can comment on that post and I will find that as well. If you want to come on the show, get in touch with your dispatcher, get in touch with Sherry, get in touch with Eve. They can all put you in touch with me, and I will make sure that we get you on this podcast. That's it for episode 55. Thank you to everyone under the H&M umbrella. And as always, stay fresh, you cheese bags.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.